Listen. Yo, Ronin Radio on the mains, you get me? We connecting the whole chain, no delays, we're ahead of the game. This ain't just pixels, it's a digital frontier. Got the ecosystem locked in, crystal clear. Every single update, we're the first to bring it. Block by block, hear the community singing. Ronin Radio, the new meta. Ronin Radio. Stay connected. Listen. Yo, Ronin Radio on the mains, you get me? We connecting the whole chain, no delays, we're ahead of the game. This ain't just pixels, it's a digital frontier. Got the ecosystem locked in, crystal clear. Every single update, we're the first to bring it. Block by block, hear the community singing. Ronin Radio, the new meta. Ronin Radio. Stay connected.
O Caesar produced a Ayo! GM, everybody. What is good? What is good? Welcome back to the Ronin Radio. Welcome back. There is a lie in this banner, though, because there is no Stark, unfortunately, for tonight. It's just going to be me. It's just going to be Gunlock that will take you through this journey. And yeah, we'll talk about, there's going to be a significant conversation that we'll have tonight for the future of Axie Classic. And Classic is moving toward a new model. It's going to be a community-led stewardship through CORC. And with that comes a lot of questions. What exactly the fuck is CORC? Because I have no clue. And what power does it actually have? What does it want to do with Classic? And can the game become more sustainable? We don't know. And ultimately, can a community actually take responsibility for a game and make it work long term? So those are a lot of questions that we'll be unpacking tonight. And joining me is none other than my good friend Indes. And Indes has been one of the strongest Classic competitors over the years with multiple season titles and is now one of the 6 core members of CORC. So you've experienced Classic from the competitive side and you're now helping with the shape what comes next. Indes, welcome to the show, man. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I've got a little slide and everything. Very professional. Up here with your Ronin t-shirt. How are we doing?
Yes, sir. We are professional in this booth and we're doing all right. Yes. It's been a minute, Mr. Indes. How are you? How's life? How's everything going?
It has been. It's been very quiet as well until this all kicked off a couple of weeks ago. I was having a nice time away, enjoying my retirement. How are you?
Retirement? At what? 24? Fuck, man. Sana all.
Well, retirement as in, that's a nicer way of saying unemployment, but yeah. We'll call it retirement for all intensive purposes.
Exactly. Now let's start with I don't wanna get to the nasty stuff just yet, but let's just get to the easy. I'm gonna take it easy on you on the first following questions because we do have a lot of questions in this. There's been a lot of questions that were sent by the community asking exactly the things that we'll be talking about tonight. And one of those is, what exactly is CORC? And just give us like a picture right now of especially for those people that haven't followed the governance side closely, how did CORC actually come together, and what is, like, I guess, the mandate?
Well, you've almost stumped me on the first question. Let me go check. What does COC stand for? Oh, here we go. Classic Origins Resurrection Council. But no, jokes aside, yeah, so it all started back tail end of April. I was reached out to by Syntax, Odin, and Creator, who are all members of the Secretariat, as they call it. It's part of the governance, as far as I'm aware. And they basically reached out and said, you know, in a couple of months' time, they were going to be getting control over the code from Sky Mavis for Classic, and that they're putting together a group of people, avid enjoyers of Classic in the past, present, that might want to, help take control over it and push towards, where we were going to go with things and direction in the future. For a lot of people involved, this is something we've been wanting to have for years now, right? So I've been about since start of 2020, active voicing balance changes and changes to do with the game ever since then. And it was something, even directly to me, Ben Kelly, who was one of the founders of Axie GG, he went to lengths of even wanting to copy all of the code so that he could have his own game that he could make changes on and updates on. This is something that we've all wanted to do for the longest amount of time. So started, I got reached out to, asked if there was anybody else I wanted to get involved, thought would be good fits for it. Naturally, I came up with our best mate, Thunderstruck. As you're very familiar with, came second place in AxieCon. Good friend of mine, been about for a while himself too, and obviously still active nowadays. And between the group of us, put together six names and basically got straight at it. We had weekly, even bi-weekly meetings, days of sort of going at one another in Discord, long threads. You know how I am when it gets to long messages. Well.
I've seen the updates. Yeah,
they got absolutely tired of me with my essays in there, and we pretty much hashed out a plan, a direction where we wanted to go with things. Had different phases set up, and then unfortunately everything was kind of put on ice, let's say, by the legal issues that we'd spoken about, specifically around how the handing over of the IP and the code was going to work, mainly with regards to liabilities. If, for example, the community were given the code, we hired some community devs and they went rogue, and I don't know, they put malware into the code, for example, and then everybody that downloaded it was hacked to some extent. Who's liable? Are Sky Mavis liable? Is governance liable? How does that all work? So it's been a long back and forth. Obviously, that's not something I'm privy to. I'm not a lawyer, thankfully. I would hate to go into these conversations. So we've kind of been on ice since then. And in the interim, obviously, the news came out from Sky Mavis that they were going to be stopping direct involvement with Classic after season 16, which kind of ties into this third point of yours, where it sits relative to Sky Mavis and the wider community. CORC is essentially an extension of governance. They call it a council. We don't have any direct power over anything other than making decisions as it pertains to Classic. Anything that may require funding, that has any impact over the economy, anything that has a wider bearing outside of Classic itself, we would have to propose to wider governance, to the contributors, to the secretariat, all the other sections of governance that have already been pre-established, the council, etc. Gotcha. So we have power in the sense that, we're obviously directly discussing things, we're bringing things up, we're kind of coming up with this direction, but at the same time, we want it to be a community endeavor, right? We want to try and, as you'll have had many a time, build in public, push things out, create discussion like we're doing at the moment, hear feedback from the community, and really make it, a coordinated effort on all fronts, and hope that between the voices of everyone and obviously a small, tight-knit, hard-working group that can actually grind through the nitty-gritty and make all those harder decisions as well, that we'll be able to come up with something and make some good progress there. So to answer your questions, start of May was when it came together. There is an Obsidian link which we can probably fetch and drop in the comments, which talks about when it came about and some of the the wider details as well. Decision-making power specifically pertains to game design decisions, etc. But anything economic will have to be brought up to a community vote. And as far as Sky Mavis involvement, from the end of season 16, there will be none. Moving forward, Sky Mavis won't have any involvement whatsoever. It will be entirely community-led, community-funded, community dev work as well. Obviously, there may be a transitional period whilst we're still working on funding and everything like that. But at the moment, that wouldn't be entirely up to Sky Mavis. If Sky Mavis choose to kind of help with a more smoother transition whilst we're still working on legal stuff, then that would be fantastic. If they don't, then it will unfortunately just kind of be a bit dead space whilst we're waiting for things to be conned over.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that there is a dev work already, or I guess there's already, I guess, the developers that you guys have talked to. How does that look like? Do we have names, or are they known in the space, or are they guys that you have, or that's something that you guys can really talk about just yet? Or how does
I'm not sure whether they'd want to be made known just yet until things are all signed off. But yeah, they are all familiar faces. It's a team within Ronin, a team within the community, a team that was suggested by one of the men from Sky Mavis themselves. Obviously, I don't want to drop their names so they get questions about it as well. But yeah, familiar faces. Like I said, it really is a community effort on all fronts. We thought hiring directly from the community, people that obviously know Ronin, know the Axie space, are familiar with all of this, would be a good first step rather than looking to go external. And as we've had the the privilege of working on before with trying to hire people from outside of Web3 into Web3, it is a big kind of just knowledge gap, and catching people up on that sort of stuff is not easy. So working with a team of people, working with a group of people that are familiar with everything already, understand the game, know the game, is a big help. Even one of the community members, Meat Value, has a lot of experience with coding, game design as well, and he'd offered to step up and give a hand with it at one point too. So yeah, from the community, I just genuinely don't know if they'd want to be mentioned just yet until everything's signed off. Otherwise, I would mention them. Yeah, like I said, up to them. If they want to come out after this and say it's them, then not my decision.
Feel free to chat in the or put in some comments if you are actually the dev or going to be part of the dev team for the resurgence.
I am Spartacus.
All right, now okay. I guess the next question that I have for you then is, what still needs to happen then before CORC can operate without Sky Mavis dependency? Like, how does that look like in terms of, or just probably give it like a percentage in terms of where we're at with all the legal, the IP handover from Sky Mavis to the CORC, so that you guys can start operating and start making decision, and I guess have the game running back up.
Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, up till now, it's literally just the legal bottleneck. Like the IP being handed over is the only thing. The last news I got was that there has been some clearance. So, we've made some progress, but yeah, I'm not exactly privy to the last couple of things that need to be done. But yeah, pretty much once legal's been cleared up, then we are in a position to start to have the devs. Oh God, I've just turned my laptop off. Start to have the devs get cracking. Really, like I told you, we spent a good 6 to 8 weeks before legal did start to kind of interrupt our progress, fleshing out a phase 1 plan, a phase 2 plan, etc. So everything that needs to be done, a clear outline of what we want the devs to work on, an order of which they should do things, an order of operations, etc. That's all done, signed off on, everyone's happy. It really is just a case of legal being sorted out first, and then letting the devs at the code really, and then we're good to go. So as far as percentage, I couldn't tell you. Legal's obviously fiddly, but I'd say it's at least 70-80% of the way there, and that everything else that could possibly be done has been done and prepared for already. Even now, community relations, which is something we wanted to hold off until we had actually got something to show you guys and pushed out, of course.
Gotcha. All right. So I guess we have a little bit or our understanding is a lot better now in terms of what CORC can control and what they're doing. You mentioned that it is more on the decision making around Axie Classic in terms of the gameplay or where the direction is headed. But you did mention that when it comes to, I guess, more on tokenomics side, is that going to be something that uh, the higher council needs to be involved in, or how does that look like in terms of what, because there are a lot of guys that are still playing Axie Classic and still enjoy it, but at the same time are asking the question, are we going to get our SLP back in the in playing the game, or is that going to be out of the question, or how does that look like?
Yeah, exactly. So obviously we're going to be directly working on things within CORC, and we can propose directions, have optionality in terms of where we would like to go with things, and obviously have a innate understanding of the potential economic macro impacts of certain changes. But ultimately, these things can only be signed off on by the council, by the contributors, like you said, kind of a higher power, so to speak, if we want to call it that. So yeah, like anything that has economic bearing, macro bearing, wider bearing than just Axie Classic, potentially on the other Axie games across Ronin as a whole, would have to be signed off on, would be brought up in discussions with, and obviously voted on by wider governance itself. So, I myself, as somebody that has, an active interest in all of that sort of stuff, would obviously want to be pushing for certain things, making active proposals, etc. But we're never going to have the final voice on that sort of thing. There's always going to be a wider vote, a wider community that take a look at that sort of thing and sign off on it before we do go ahead with things.
Gotcha.
So yeah, if you're somebody in the community that might not necessarily be completely familiar with Classic or an active member of Classic, but does care about the direction of the economy and cares about where things are going in the future, then if you're not already a contributor, then that's something you should be looking to apply for. But if you are, or potentially a member of the council, and you're concerned that, we're just going to go cowboy and take the reins and send us places, then yeah, like I said, that's not going to happen. It is going to come to wider votes. There are going to be wider discussions that come up. So yeah, not a concern that people should have as far as us taking over on everything.
Exactly. If you want to get involved, make sure to read on the Obsidian site. We'll link it down below later in the comments. Okay, now let's talk about the plans then. Just quickly gonna go through them in this.
Yep.
Once the handover is complete, like what's the priority here? Is it the economy? Is it the competitiveness of the game, or maybe bringing some old classic identity that longtime players are? I'm not sure if you've been in the socials or you've been reading through the comments, but there have been a lot of people that have asked to, get the old graphics back for how the old
nostalgia. Yeah, no, like you said, I would love one of the first changes, obviously not essential priority, but one of the first quality of life changes I'd asked for, I think it might have even been Meat Value that suggested it, was to have, the option to flick between the old and the new.
The toggle, yes, sir.
Yeah, have floating axes. I'm not sure exactly what has to go into it, but yeah, that's something that I definitely like to see. But yeah, no, to answer your question, the main things that we're looking to tackle are obviously at the moment level 2 parts were introduced, artifacts and gears were introduced. I'm not going to say hurriedly. I don't want to disparage Skynovis on that end, but there definitely feels like it was a list of KPIs that the small team that were working on Classic were given, and they had to meet certain criteria. They had to push for a certain amount of active players. They had to try and come up with a way to integrate AXP into Classic, etc. Right? And I think we can all agree, anybody that's played Classic to any extent, that it's far from a perfect system. AXP itself just takes far too long to level up. Maybe in general, but especially as it pertains to Classic, right? When we've got something like 80 new level 2 parts, people aren't even fully unlocking all of them yet, or they haven't fully unlocked all the parts across an Axie yet. It's just not compatible whatsoever with competitive play, and it's not really an enjoyable experience for the average player either, when you have to grind for 17 years just to unlock your team. Right? It's not a great user experience at the moment. So as far as like our long-term goals, obviously making it an enjoyable and fun user experience is up there, and eventually expanding to wider markets. But at the moment, we've got clear inherent issues with the quality of life of the game, the enjoyment of the game, the balance of the game, and how it is as far as a competitive model goes. So those are the things that we're focusing on immediately. Fixing those issues with level 2 parts, with artifacts and gears, and also obviously looking to do some balancing as well, because that's just an easy quick fix. As far as dev hours go, it doesn't take very long to toggle some numbers in the code, right? It's not as big of an undertaking as people may have otherwise been have it made out to be, right? In the past with Sky Mavis, we were only ever able to suggest basically number changes instead of full reworks to cards and things like that. But we're quickly realizing that there is a lot more possible than we thought there was with the code. So definitely a lot of things that we can do, a lot of things that we want to do. But like I said, immediately kind of the balance of the game, the enjoyment of the game, these are the things that have been introduced. Whether we like them or not, they're here to stay. So we need to try and work out ways for which they can be compatible moving forward. And so those are kind of our immediate focuses in phase 1. And that's going to kind of set us up looking forward to phase 2, and obviously gathering community feedback as we go and seeing how people like the direction and the changes that we bring out in that first phase is going to be a big part of it as well.
Gotcha. Now, so we've also seen a lot of community ideas, and it has been implemented in a lot of other Ronin games as well. I'm not sure if you've been tap into the news on what good games are working on Ronin. And from what I can see, or from what I've been seeing in the last couple of games that I've played on that were fun and exciting for me, the risk to earn model is working for a good amount of games that are still alive. Cambria, for one, is implementing that one. And there had been conversation that, putting Axies on the line, having buy-in tournaments, maybe SLP burns or other economic mechanics. Are those things being talked about inside CORC, or is that something that you guys are already looking into, or how does that in terms of priority going in?
Absolutely. So I believe risk to earn is what people call it, right? That's kind of the genre of games that I think you find the dev team, if they are to be named at some point, are very familiar with it themselves. But that's obviously something we've spoken about, something we've spoken about years ago as well, like more towards kind of the line of thinking of poker or like other esports where you do have these buy-in tournaments, right? Be it Axies, be it AXS, SLP, whatever it is, this idea of putting some amount of money online, betting on yourself, or kind of any sort of form of buy-in and becoming a tournament is something that we've definitely entertained. I know that the in-game tournament system at the moment leaves a lot to be desired, and is something that we could look to expand upon in the future as well. It's one of the things we've discussed. I mean, you and I specifically are very familiar with the whole, wanting to bet on games and kind of challenge other people with
hang on.
No worries. Oh, Ronin man.
Okay.
Gathering something in the background. Yeah, there we go. He's got his tribally cap on. Yeah, so you're very familiar with kind of the whole notion of wanting to be able to bet on everything game-wise and, kind of challenge one another. So, buy-in tournaments, everything like that is something that we want to bring out in the future, have available to people. Obviously, the main constraints to things like that in the past were obviously just the feasibility of, doing like a $1 bet and then the gas fee being more than the actual bet, just never makes sense to do it, right?
Yeah.
Or not being able to implement it in game or like off chain, for example, right? And that being a thing. So yeah, I think having control over the code itself and being able to implement that sort of thing in game could potentially kind of circumnavigate some of those issues that we found in the past. If there were people who were able to, no idea if they would be able to, this is me just completely spitballing at the moment, but through something like BAXS or some form of in-game currency, if they're able to bet that, exchange that, ways that we can avoid kind of the limitations of blockchain as it pertains to betting on things or buying tournaments specifically, would definitely be something we want to go down the route of. I'm from Clash Royale, and one of the things I look very fondly upon is when we used to have qualifiers for semi-pro tournaments like RPL. They're basically, you'd have 5-man teams, you'd be put into these different pools, and there'd be like a 100-man tournament, and you basically have an hour, and whoever had the most wins aggregated across all of your team player or your team members would qualify through the tournament. And we've not really had much, I guess, experimentation with esports or tournaments or anything like that in Classic, right? For the longest time, Chief and everyone put the esport on their back, and they ran fantastic tournaments, but there wasn't much we could do in game. So in-game tournament features, guild walls, guild tournaments, all of these sort of things are stuff that we've discussed and would love to get implemented in the game moving forward, and not have to rely on anything third party, which comes with its whole host of risks and limitations, again, as we are very familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, if you can have everything housed inside the app itself, right? If you can have like the Axie Classic app, just have the tournament functionality already running, that would really be, I mean, a really good one, because right now, as you've mentioned, it's not as optimized as we want it to be. Like there's not a lot of players that actually utilize it for having their own tournaments. There's just no, I guess, benefit in a way to actually do that. But yeah, I would love to see how that conversation or that improvement in the future, because I, for one, loves to have tournaments and love to cast those tournaments. So yeah, I'm excited for that one. Okay. Let me see.
I guess we to just touch on some of your points, just so nothing goes amiss. How progress and success get measured is one that I can chime in on. So our more extensive KPIs are obviously in that Obsidian link that we've already referenced. But as far as ones that I'd kind of set for ourselves, let's say, or that I'd set myself, even that I'd want to make sure that we're hitting the marks on. Number one would be, accessibility. Like we want to make it an enjoyable experience to where people aren't gated, be it, or, not to an entire extent financially, or obviously at the moment, the main thing we're concerned about is time, right? Like the amount of time it takes to level up your level 2 parts, AXP being kind of a big bottleneck of growth and enjoyment for people. User growth, is obviously one. In the near term, that just being activity and targeting within the current community, right? Re-engaging people that might not play Classic because of XYZ reason, and wondering why. If you're an active player, a member of Ronin, and you're kind of tuning into shows like this and you're not playing Classic, why? Re-engaging those people, making it an enjoyable experience for them. Market activity, as another KPI, obviously it goes hand in hand with growth of the treasury, right, which is where the funding for things like this in future is going to come from, for governance and growing the wider community treasury. So incentivizing and kind of promoting the buying and selling of Axies, breeding, all of this good stuff that ties into what we'd view as a healthier economy, rather than a stagnant, boring one as it has been of late. And obviously, like I said already, game quality of life and enjoyment, just generally making it a fun, enjoyable sticky, as they say, experience that people are going to want to come back to and continue playing, rather than the usual that I'm sure we're all too familiar with in the Web3 space of just arbitrary numbers and statistics that people can get bots to farm for them. And
Yeah,
we're not going to come out next month.
we've been seeing a lot of that as of late.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, that's not a direct hit on anybody, because I've already told you, I've not paid attention to much in the space for a while now, so I don't know. But obviously in our time that was very common, so it's not like we're going to come out next month and be like, well, we've got a million daily active users because we've introduced a daily login, and all of these bots have decided that one SLP is worth hooking up their AI agent to sign people. That's not the kind of the direction we want to go down. We want to re-engage current community, get everybody enjoying the game, playing the game, providing feedback for the game, and kind of having their own voices over the direction moving forward. And that's
for sure
really our focus is at the moment.
There is actually a question in the chat though, earlier. Royal Potato asked, wait, no funding? ? Now I have a question around that one as well, Indes. Can Axie Classic actually support itself? And how does that look like in terms of funding? Where does that come from? And, how does that economy going to be shaped like? Just give us a rough idea of how you guys are looking at that at this point.
Yeah, so at the moment, not privy to any of the numbers. And I know that Classic's obviously revenue generating, but I'd be surprised if it were running at a profit. I mean, I'd be surprised if any games were running at a profit, frankly. It's a hard line to hit. But yeah, moving forwards, as far as funding goes, Classic will essentially be funded out of the community treasury, the pool that's available for governments to vote on the direction of, and the spending of, and where these things will go, which is why, like I've mentioned previously, these things will have to be called to a wider vote. The wider councils, the contributors, all of these people will have a say in how much, where, over what time, all of these questions I'm sure a lot of people have as far as how much spending is going to be going onto this, etc. And that is all stuff that's going to be voted on directly by governments. As of now, there's no separate pot of money that's stashed away specifically for Classic or anything like that. We've not been told we've got a 10 grand a month budget and we've got to make it stretch. None of that. At the moment, all we know is that it is going to be funded from the treasury as soon as Sky Mavis has obviously finished their operations as of the end of season 16. And how exactly that looks, like I said, I'm not sure yet, because until legal's been signed off on, it's not a conversation that's been brought up just yet. But so that's how it'll be funded long term. As far as the point on revenue, that's obviously a direct thing that we're considering, because it's all well and good having a really fun game that everybody wants to play, but if it's not turning a profit or generating any revenue whatsoever, then it's not going to last that long, right? So there are inherent issues that we want to tackle first. There are things that we want to do first, like we'd already mentioned, that are going to help, that are more important in the immediate term. But yeah, obviously over the midterm, the long term, focusing on generating revenue and finding ways for Classic to hopefully at some point turn a profit are big focuses of ours. But at the moment, I'd say just more generally on that, the issues of re-engaging the community, and then obviously wanting to target wider markets in the future, do kind of take precedent in my eyes, at least, over wanting to kind of focus absolutely everything on microtransactions or absolutely everything on trying to find ways to bleed every single dollar dry from the community so we can claim that our balance sheet is positive at the end of the month. You know what I mean? It's definitely something that we have unfortunately seen all too much of in the past from other games as well.
Exactly. Now, there's also SLP, because, what do you think, or does SLP have anything to do now, or moving forward in terms of how, or what's the direction that you guys are looking at in terms of SLP? Because there are a lot of, old players that have SLP lying in their wallets for a long time now. What is the thought around SLP?
Yeah, so obviously anything directly economical or financial is going to be more of a question for the wider council and governance. And, as far as they're concerned, not putting words in anybody's mouth, but obviously AXS is the kind of priority or focal point in their eyes, right? Because AXS is how the treasury will be grown. So I'm sure that as we've probably seen with changes to BAXS and things, in the past, also moving forward, that's going to be more of a direct goal or target for people is the growth of AXS and making sure that AXS is in a good spot. As far as SLP goes, obviously, nostalgia speaking, it's what we're used to, right? Farming SLP, playing games, winning SLP. That's something that we've long been used to, and I'm sure lots of people would want to see come back at some point.
Yeah.
I can't say that there's been any immediate discussions of yes, the first thing we're going to do when we got the devs is they're going to re-implement SLP and it's going to do X, Y, Z, right? I can't say that, but yeah, it's definitely not an afterthought. It is something that we've spoken about, and yeah, we just got to see how things shape up as far as how AXS is implemented, how SLP is implemented at the moment, how the chess system works and gems and things like that. There are lots of other things in the in-game economy at the moment that we need to work out, and as far as SLP's place in that, I can't say there's anything specific at the moment, but as you've put on here, it obviously is important to breeding and still part of breeding as well, and that's something that is outside of my scope, as far as AXS and an SLP and how much that all costs and how that should be broken down. But yeah, it's all things that we're thinking about, or things that we're looking to include in future phases as we look to expand our reach and direction, really.
Gotcha. So it's more on, I guess, to somewhat summarize what we've been talking about, CORC is more focused on the actual game build, the direction of the game, Axie Classic to be specific right now, and anything that has something to do with economy, SLP, breeding, that sort of stuff is going to go to the wider governance, and that will be put to, I guess, a vote at some point, especially if there's major changes. But everything else is just as is right now for the breeding, that kind of stuff, right? Nothing is going to be changed on that one just yet.
Yeah, exactly. There's no proposed change just yet for SLP. And yeah, like you said, hit the nail on the head. We're obviously, there's an inherent matrimony with pushing in-game changes and all that good stuff with anything economic. So we're going to be making those proposals, ruminating over the impacts of those decisions, but it's still firmly up to the councils to have the final say and voting on that sort of stuff moving forward.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, I'd like to, we've talked about the potential look of the economy that is going to be run by the governance. How does the community actually get involved here? Because I want to, I guess, make sense of how the community can get involved in terms of the changes that you implement in the game. Like, how do you take the player feedback seriously while still being able to make decisions and actually build the game?
Yeah, all right. So at the moment, the main kind of routes for feedback, if you're just a member of the community, is obviously you can look to apply to be a contributor. You can get more involved directly in discussions there. But that's obviously not our only port of call. That's mainly for wider governance. I myself and CORC in general, we've been very active in the Axie Classic section of the Discord and looking to kind of corral feedback and talk to and engage with community members there. We also have the Axie Classic Guilds Discord, and where all of the main leaders of Axie Classic guilds that are still active nowadays have been posting their feedback, and we've been engaging with people. So those at the moment are kind of the main channels. I would say, of course, feel free to voice your opinions on X and different places like that, but I can't pretend to be scrolling X at night, making sure I get every single last bit of feedback. So yeah, at the moment, those would be kind of the more official channels to get in contact with us. But yeah, like once we've actually implemented things, we would be actively looking to seek out feedback ourselves, right? So I would like to set up more direct official routes, to where you can give us immediate feedback on changes. We can, promote wider discussion, even look to kind of police is the wrong word, but you know what I mean, like be there and manage and direct discussion and make sure people are all kind of having productive conversations rather than, I'm sure what we're all too familiar with for a while, which is basically team brings out changes, community complains about changes, maybe team makes some changes. At the end, nobody's perfectly happy. We want everybody to feel a lot more involved and feel like you've actually got, pathways, directions you can go down to have your voices be heard. That's something, I'm obviously, or you and I are both very familiar with on the Tribally end in the past. There was a lot of what our job descriptions was seeking feedback from the community and kind of being a go-between. And that's something that I imagine I'll take on a role of myself a lot moving forward. So yeah, as per always, I was going to say my DMs are open. They're not. I'm muted on Discord, but the official channels, you feel free to tag me. I've been getting in there, responding to people, trying to make sure everybody's feels like their feedback's being taken on board. And like I said, we have weekly meetings, sometimes even bi-weekly meetings, bringing up these sort of things, discussing them with the wider group at the moment, and moving forward when we are actually actively bringing out changes, that's only going to be more active and be more of an apparent thing. And yeah, like I said, a general kind of ethos or approach was to build first and then seek feedback and seek discussion later. Unfortunately, it's more been have Sky Mavis announce you first and then try and work out how you can explain away what the hell you are and what you're doing, which is what we're doing at the moment, right?
Surprise!
Yeah, exactly. Here you go. Wednesday morning, try and make sense of this. You know, but yeah, so that's where we're at the moment. But yeah, like I said.
Okay, I want to bring this back to you personally because you've been one of the, if not probably the strongest competitors of Axie Classic up to date. You had multiple season titles, and now you're helping make decisions about the game you competed in the past. How does your competitive background shape the way you think about balance and meta under community control?
Yeah, so I think it's a massive advantage, obviously, to have, I mean, as humbly as I can say, we've played the game to the highest level, at some point at least. I can't claim to have anymore, but yeah, obviously.
Thunder can.
Yeah, exactly. Thunder can. Inherently understand the game at a deep level. It helped me in the past to suggest and behind the scenes work on most of the balancing from season 10 all the way through to about 2021. I was kind of the main go-between for balance changes in the past as well. It's something that I'm very familiar with. And yeah, obviously I think that in any game, as far as balancing is concerned, calling upon the opinion of the most informed and the most inherently understanding, which does tend to be the top players of the game, obviously, is really important. Not to say that that's the only thing we'd be balancing for and the only opinions we'd be listening to, because obviously we're all very familiar with how metas at the very top of games can change as you go down the MMR range, as you go down the ranks. And an issue, or kind of I'd call it more of like a fun issue in, let's say, the top 5,000 or the top 20% of players, this doesn't impact at all the top players, is something that we'd obviously be wanting to seek the opinion of, be aware of, and make changes in the future. But yeah, for balances specifically, and for kind of game design decisions and just generally making it a fun and competitive game. I think that, having played the game to the highest level before, and like I said, being very experienced with balance changes, and even before I was kind of heard, making my voice heard by complaining about things very loudly in the Discord for months and months on end, was the way that I went about things before. So it's nice. It feels very natural to me. It's very second nature. I can roll out of bed and start to talk about Classic as long as I can please to. So that's unique for me.
That is awesome. Now, we've talked about where CORC is today, what it wants to do, and I guess how it can help the game, run a long term, and how the community fits in that process. So I want to, I guess, finish it off by getting the bigger picture here, from your perspective, or from CORC's perspective. If CORC succeeds with Classic, do you see that becoming a template for other Axie products? I'm talking about specifically Origins, because one of our viewers here, Blue Perp, asked earlier if there will be any type of work that will be done on Origins as well in the future, and how does that look like?
Yeah, so in the immediate term, we're only going to be taking control of Classic. Sky Mavis, as far as I'm aware, still intend to make changes on Origins in the immediate term, at least. But yeah, to your point, I think Classic is almost a dry run, or the potential, like you said, template for the future of how governance can exist to make changes to games, and can take control over games in the future within, especially the Axie ecosystem as well, and really set a precedent of how giving decision making over to the kind of most, not that the members of the CORC are the most, but to active and competitive and just really experienced members of the community that care about the direction and want to see the game succeed, can be something that can succeed moving forward. So I definitely think it's a blueprint, potentially a template, and we'll see how it goes, because obviously, like I said, we haven't actually released any changes yet, so I can't be talking myself up as if we're the best thing since sliced bread until we've actually done something. But I do definitely think it can set a precedent, and I think a lot of the reason the Secretariat reached out to the people that they did and looked to implement this at the time they did was at some point, full-blown governance is going to be a reality in the future, and it's better to try these things and to go down this pathway as early as we can. And hopefully it will be the winning formula for everything moving forward.
There you go. Hopefully it will be. But let's try to make this a little bit more concrete in this. Imagine we're sitting here 12 to 18 months from now. I interview you again. We talk again on the Ronin Radio, and I ask you, what does winning look like for Classic at that point? Like you've already been operating for a year. You've shipped updates, changed potentially the economy, and made balance decisions, and hopefully get more players back. But what does that winning feel or look like?
Yeah, so success for me would look like a game that's enjoyable. Anybody can pick it up, they can understand it, they can have fun. Like in the olden days, obviously, a lot of the fun came from making some money on the side from SLP. But having it be a game that is enjoyable, that people are going to want to play. Obviously, have re-engaged the current and active communities, and by that point in the future, hopefully, have extended outside of our current kind of market demographic and look to have engaged other communities, or re-engaged the previous people that stopped playing Classic, that might stop paying attention to Web3 or crypto entirely, and have them get back involved, have them be enjoying the game, and just generally a fun, accessible game that is hopefully making the foundations, the stepping stones towards a competitive esport as well, and have inherent competition with guilds, with buy-in tournaments that we already spoke about, and obviously with the ladder that we also know and love, all be enjoyable, competitive, and something that you could show to your family member. Given the game and have them play and have them not be pissed off after 5 minutes because he's spent the last
I
7 years.
remember showing my wife Axie Classic back in the day, and her being pissed because she's faced with a Terminator and she can't win.
Yeah, exactly. There are lots of growing pains that happens with games like these. So, just basically a game that we could be proud of, that people would enjoy. Like I said, ideally at that point have engaged outside of just the current scope of users would be success for me.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be, indeed, also in my eyes, really successful, especially if we break through the Web 2 audiences or the non-Web 3 gamers and actually have people really wanting to play, like, just grind it the way that you are grinding Dota, League of Legends, those kind of games. All right, now you've spent I'm not saying this to glaze you over and over in this, but you've spent years or seasons playing Classic at the highest level. Now you're helping decide what this game becomes. There are longtime players who wants Classic back. Players who have moved on as well. Those people that have said, nah, I'm not going to touch that again. And there are also people who are watching CORC wondering whether this experiment can actually work. What do you want the Axie Classic community to understand about what CORC is trying to build? And this will be your final message.
Yeah, so I guess the main message is, we want to make it a fun, enjoyable, accessible game, and we want it to be something that, first look, if you've not played the game for years, I think we all remember when there was that massive push when Classic was turned back on the first time. Huge engagement on Facebook, a load of the old streamers, a load of especially Pinoy community was kind of re-engaged and they started playing again. And their first opinion was probably more along the lines of, what the fuck is this? What's happened to the game that I used to play and enjoyed, rather than, oh my God, there's a good hit of nostalgia here. This is something I'm familiar with. But this is also, they've made big changes. This is great. There's a load of progress. The things that I hated before, your wife hating the Terminator, or somebody kind of logging on and feeling like there's nothing else to do, maybe, apart from grinding SLP.
Yeah.
We want people to be re-engaged, and that first look, that first drop-off point that every game experiences when you actually download the game and you hop in. We want that to look a lot better than it has done. We want that to be enjoyable. We want it to be an experience that, like we said, you can show to your neighbor, and they're not going to look at you like you're a fucking weirdo because you've just shown them this crappy game on the internet that you play. So, that would be my lasting message, with a bit of good old English profanity as well. But, something that you can enjoy, you can be proud of, and that you're going to want to play for years to come is obviously our focus moving forward.
Awesome. All right. There you have it, ladies and gents. That is the update that we have for CORC for Axie Classic. And Axie Classic is, I believe the season is going to be ending in a few days or a week. And we'll have the Classic Championship as well right around September. So that is going to be exciting because I'm going to be casting that one. And we're going to be playing some more Axie Classic before, I guess, it gets turned off and resurrected by the CORC. And I think that what makes this whole thing interesting is that CORC isn't just taking over a game. You're taking responsibility for a game, its economy, the competitive scene, and the community that has very strong opinions about Classic should be, or how Classic should be. And now the challenge is, I guess, figuring out what should be preserved, what needs to be changed, and whether a community-led model can actually make Classic sustainable. So, again, Indes, thank you for joining us. And to everyone that's watching the show, let us know what you think. What should CORC prioritize? Write it in the comment. And what would make you come back to Classic? Let us know. And thank you again for joining us on Ronin Radio. I don't have a start tonight, but we have an Indes. We don't have a video of him. I'm not sure if he's want to show his face, but you know. All right. Well, thank you again for joining. And yeah, that is gonna be it for Ronin Radio. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Take
Not a chance that I can't hear any of you fuckers right now, and you actually are.
Oh, shit!